So our next corporate and law firm finalists, Reed Smith, we've got Brian showing us consent tracker. So Brian, what was the problem you guys needed to solve?
So we had a large financial client with a non-litigation problem, and it was actually an M&A due diligence. They were trying to do a risk analysis of sort of selling off multi-billion dollars of some of their business units around the globe, different jurisdictions, different countries, and they needed to be able to prioritize with each one of those. Obviously, there's tons of agreements and contracts that they had to analyze the risk of how easy and to prioritize how it would be to sell them off. So what we did was we put together, there was two things that they really wanted to do. One was organize all these agreements. Some of them were parsed out, some of them had amendments that you had to put together that they were not unitized correctly. So we had to have a platform to host it, platform to review them, platform to organize the different risk clauses that we were looking for, and then also at the same time have a consent tracker because some of them required consent to actually do any sort of sell. So we use Relativity for all of that.
Cool.
Yep.
That's great. Love the kind of outside of e-discovery application too. And the way you guys started working on this tool actually has a really interesting story behind it too. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so we had a meeting with the client and one of our competitors, or two of our competitors, at our New York office, and basically it was like a requirements meeting. Like, so which one of you are gonna handle this from a technology standpoint? And so the client went first. They had sort of a SharePoint type of solution and with some custom things on it, and it was great for hosting the agreements and reviewing them, but the consent tracker is really what they wanted. And so our resident wizard, our CA, Sherry Wilner, our manager in New York, was sitting there, and as they were going through their requirements, she was sitting there putting together this consent tracker, and did it within 10 minutes. And so when we went, we said, so everyone knows Relativity, you can host documents to have the analytical searches and whatnot. But what about this RDO that we can have a consent tracker? So she said, how about this? And they were like, that's perfect. We're going with that. The other two firms didn't even go. They said, that's what we're doing. And so the cool thing about it is that once someone finishes the consent tracker, it sends an auto email to the client, us, and everyone to know that it's ready to go.
That's awesome. So
that's really cool.
Sherry's building the RDO on the fly.
Yes, that's her right there.
While the other firm's presenting, and then that's great.
Yeah.
Do you want to show us the tool?
Sure. Okay. So here's the consent tracker itself. It's just an RDO custom tab that we created where literally you fill in the various information about the agreement, who needs to give consent if they need to, and then right there it creates sort of a Rolodex within the whole system itself. So Mike Ditka was our client there and was a party to one of the agreements. And then this is the auto email that would come once the consent tracker was done. If someone finished out that they had to get consent or they got consent, auto email came to the client, came to us. So it was able to sort of keep track of that while we were also organizing the documents. So there was really two parallel tracks happening at the same time. This we also created sort of when I was talking about earlier, a lot of the agreements were parsed out. There was amendments that were out of order and whatnot. We created sort of a little handshake icon where if you put in the parent ID, then it would automatically create a family relationship. So, and we thought the handshake was a cool little icon that was also a Sherry in our operations team role. Here it gives you the idea that you see the agreement, you see all the parent amendments or addendums on that. So the other part of this, besides the consent tracking, was we're trying to prioritize and do everything very quickly. And originally they thought that it was going to take about 6 months to do this, and we were able to do it in 30 days.
Wow.
Part for a couple of things. One, we use analytics to go through and parse through all the agreements. We did clustering to figure out some of the high priority clauses to drill in. We also did foreign language identification because we had a lot of the parties were in different countries, and we needed to make sure that we organized the review in a way that those folks were seeing those languages and whatnot and doing that.
That's great. So a 6-month project down to 1 month, you saved the client a bunch of money, and it's also had an impact on your business after that too, right?
It has, actually, yeah. I mean, Relativity for us is like a Swiss Army knife, you know. I mean, it's just, it's a technology tool that happened to be pointed at e-discovery. I think it's a tool that can go well beyond. It's increased our business potential with us dipping into other practice groups. I mean, half of Reed Smith is not litigation, so it's made great inroads for us to be more efficient in the delivery of legal services overall.
Great. Love seeing
really cool.
Relativity used across different parts of the firm.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Great job.
Yep.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Nice work.